Hello guys, today I'll be ranking the Life of Agony albums. Now, I'll be going from worst to best, and keep in mind this is just my personal ranking. You don't have to agree with it, but feel free to let me know your ranking in the comment section below. But yeah, Life of Agony, pretty underrated band in my opinion. There are even other bands you can mention that are pretty underrated, like Faith No More and Biohazard, Static X, just to name a few other bands. But yeah, Life of Agony, pretty good band. Maybe not the best discography out there, but definitely have their share of great stuff for sure. But anyways, let's go ahead and get into this ranking. So at the bottom, I have A Place Where There's No Pain. This album has just never really done it for me. The replay value just also isn't there for me, and when I go to Life of Agony, I rarely return to this album. Now, I wouldn't say that's unlistenable or anything. It's just compared to the rest of the albums, I just find it to be kind of meh. So next we have Broken Valley, and this is a 2-track sampler used to help promote the album. But yeah, Broken Valley, on this album, not the biggest fan of Keith's vocals. At the time, he was still known as Keith before it was later Mina. But this album does have a few songs I like, but kind of like with the previous album, the replay value just isn't quite there for me, and the production I'm a little bit on the fence about. But I mean, I like Love to Let You Down. Junk Sick, I think, is okay, but the album for me just lacks some mostly memorable songs, and also I don't return to very many songs on the album in general, to be honest. Nowadays, I really only just go back to the album opener, Love to Let You Down. But yeah, compared to the rest of their albums, this album is kind of just okay to me. But next we have their latest album, The Sound of Scars. Why I put this album above the previous two is mainly because I just like the riff work on this album a bit more. Musically, a bit more interesting of an album. Production wise, not the best, which is a little bit disappointing because it's produced by Sylvia Massey, and she's produced some albums that I do enjoy. I think she worked with Tool, if I remember correctly, and also worked with System of a Down on maybe, I think, their first album. I can't remember, but either way, the album, I think this album is okay. I'm not the biggest fan of their modern work, to be honest, but I do like a few songs though when it comes to, again, their modern stuff. But Scars is easily my favorite on the album. But the album does have its positives, does have its redeeming values, but in my opinion, definitely not one of their best. But next we have Soulsearching Sun. So on this album, they kind of go a bit more alternative rock, alternative metal, however you want to put it. But now, when I was getting into Life of Agony, this was an album that took me a little bit to really get into, because during my first few listens, I just wasn't really feeling it outside of songs like Hope and Weeds. The rest of the album just didn't do much for me, but as I've given it more listens over time, I've grown to like it more and more. Now, it's by far not my favorite of the band or anything, but I still think it's a solid album. And if you didn't like it the first time, definitely give it another chance. But some of my favorites are Hope, Weeds, Tangerine, pretty underrated song in my opinion. Another favorite of mine is My Mind is Dangerous, kind of a unique song on the album, a bit more melodic. And Desire is kind of an interesting song too. But yeah, the album, pretty interesting album for sure, and a kind of a unique album in their discography also. But next we have Ugly. Maybe their darkest album, and I also like the dark, heavy nature of the album in general. But yeah, I mean, some of my favorites: Seasons, High Regret, Other Side of the River, Drained and Damned, If I Do, are pretty underrated songs in my opinion. Same with Unstable. But yeah, I also like Keith's vocals on this album too. He still has that low voice, but at the same time, he still sounds a little bit different from the previous album, River Runs Red. But definitely, easily one of their best in my opinion. An overall pretty solid album. But of course, to no surprise, at the top I have River Runs Red. Definitely a classic in my opinion, especially when you think of 90s rock or 90s metal. Pretty enjoyable album, and it's also a concept album. Kind of an underrated concept album too. It's maybe one of my favorite concept albums of all time. I don't know. I really enjoy this album a lot. Not a single weak track on it, in my opinion. Now, I don't know if I'd go as far to say that's a perfect album or anything, but again, definitely their best. Definitely a blast to listen to, even if the subject matter is, of course, pretty dark. But some of my favorites are This Time, the title track, Through and Through, Bad Seed. The Stain Remains, maybe the most underrated song on the album. I love that song a lot, especially with the more faster or upbeat tempos that you get here and there throughout the song. And also Method of Groove is a pretty fun song to listen to also. But yeah, honestly, you can't really go wrong with any of the songs on this album. If you're into concept albums and somehow you haven't heard this album, please give it a listen. I highly recommend it. But yeah, anyways, that's my ranking for the Life of Agony albums. Let me know your thoughts on my ranking. Let me know your ranking in the comment section below. Do you agree or disagree with certain placements in my ranking and all the good stuff? But anyways, thanks for watching. Please leave a comment and a like, subscribe. Have a nice day, and take care.